without even first. Love is the worst of all worlds.
Hey, we're good. We're good. What's up? Hey, man. I needed a double song for this one. I got a little bit delayed. I had a malfunction, and I had to fix the malfunction, so I needed some extra time. All right. Welcome to the show. We are getting nearly to the end. We got about 40 pages left to go, so we're definitely not wrapping it up too soon. But we're moving along pretty well here. So I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Here's a warning, a heads up. If you are not subbed to the channel by now, you can't participate in the chat room. I decided, for Dana's protection, that if you're going to bother to troll, then I want your sub count for the day, right? So 24-hour notice. So as of 2 o'clock this afternoon, if you subbed after that, you won't be able to participate in the chat because just in case things are getting real, I may have to make decisions. Anyway, but we'll see. Odds are nobody will want to care. Sometimes the best thing about evil is that sometimes it doesn't understand the significance of you, and so it totally just ignores you. It has no wherewithal that you are a threat to it. Which is maybe depressing because that might be true, but also great because it means I'm of no threat and whether they care. Alright, so let's have at it. I'm going to start from right up here. Every revolutionary leader of consequence has had to undergo these withdrawals from the arena of action. Without such opportunities, he goes from one tactic and one action to another, but most of them are almost terminal. Tactics in themselves, he never has a chance to think through an overall synthesis, and he burns himself out. He becomes, in fact, nothing more than a temporary irritant. The prophets of the Old Testament and the New found their opportunity for synthesis by voluntarily removing themselves to the wilderness. It was after they emerged that they began propagandizing their philosophies. Often a revolutionary finds that he cannot voluntarily detach himself, since the pressure of events and actions do not permit him that luxury. Furthermore, a revolutionary, or a man of action, does not have the sedentary frame of mind that is part of the personality of a research scholar. He finds it very difficult to sit quietly and think and write. Even when provided with a voluntary situation of that kind, he will react by trying to escape the job of thinking and writing. He will do anything to avoid it. I remember that once I accepted an invitation to participate in a one-week discussion at the Aspen Institute. The argument was made that this would be a good opportunity to get away from it all and write. The Institute sessions would last only from 10 to noon, and I would be free for the rest of the afternoon and the evening. The morning began with the Institute sessions. The subjects were very interesting and carried over through a luncheon discussion which lasted until 2:30 or 3. Now I could sit and write from 3 to dinner, but then one of the members of the discussion group, a most interesting astronomer, stopped in for a chat. By the time he left, it was 5 p.m. There wasn't much point in startling to write then, for there would be cocktails at 5:30, and after cocktails, there wasn't much point in sitting down to start writing because dinner would be served soon, and after dinner there wasn't much point in trying to start writing because it was late, and I was tired. Now it is true that I could have got up immediately after lunch, told everybody that I was not to be disturbed, and gone to spend the afternoon writing. I could have gone back to my quarters, locked the door, and hopefully started writing. But the fact is that I did not want to come to grips with thinking and writing any more than anyone else involved in revolutionary movements does. I welcome the interruptions and use them as rationalizing excuses to escape the ordeal of thinking and writing. A jail provides just the opposite circumstances. You have no phones, and except for an hour or so a day, no visitors. Your jailers are rough, unsociable, and generally so dull that you wouldn't want to talk to them anyway. You find yourself in a physical drabness and confinement, which you desperately try to escape. Since there is no physical escape, you are driven to erase your surroundings imaginatively. You escape into thinking and writing. It was through periodic imprisonment that the basis for my first publication and the first orderly philosophical arrangement of my ideas and goals occurred. Enough of philosophical cells. Let's get back to the business of the active essentials of organizing. Among the essentials is timing. Timing is to tactics what it is to everything in life, the difference between success and failure. I don't mean the timing of the start of a tactic. That is important, certainly, but as has been stated repeatedly, life does not usually afford the tactician the luxury of time or place when the conflict is engaged. Life does permit, however, that the skilled tactician be conscious of the utilization of time in the use of tactics. Once the battle is joined and the tactic is employed, it is important that the conflict not be carried on over too long a time. If you will recall, this was the 7th rule noted at the beginning of this chapter. There are many reasons of human experience arguing for this point. I cannot repeat too often that a conflict that drags on too long becomes a drag. The same universality applies for a tactic or for any other specific action. Right, so Saul would understand, okay, Occupy Wall Street is going to burn itself out. I can't breathe, hands up, don't shoot. Black Lives Matter is going to wear itself out. No King's Day is going to wear itself out. The big thing about the illegals and demonstrating for the illegals and such is that you will notice that literally the only people that seem to know these illegal aliens are their social caseworkers and Democrat politicians, especially local level. maybe a U.S. Congresswoman or something, right? And certainly you can get up there with the Senate and et cetera, et cetera. So, part of the problem is that it's all sentiment. You don't know any of these people being deported. You never cared about them the entire time they were here. It was just a virtuous, righteous self-identity of the country. That's all it ever was. Meanwhile, they were just here to be exploited labor. That's why they are, quote, just here to work, unquote. And the premise is there is no kind of life they can have in their country. That is the premise. But because they didn't trust us to generously let them in, we can't trust them until we talk to them in the manner we would talk to anybody coming into this country. But the double problem is that now you've already come into this country. Now we have to ask questions because also your criminals come into this country, your intelligence agencies come into this country, your intelligence agencies come into this country, your intelligence agencies come into this country. Because why wouldn't you? And theoretically, that doesn't have to affect you. You just have to be wise enough to know that when the enemy defeats the guys that are in charge of your life, just be prepared for your whole life to change. Right? Including who gets to say you're a threat and who gets to hunt down you, the threat. If you won't hunt your own down, we will bring in a foreign occupation to do it for you. And then all your Saul Alinsky tactics will just be blood on the street. Among the reasons is the simple fact that human beings can sustain an interest in a particular subject only over a limited period of time. The concentration, the emotional fervor, even the physical energy, a particular experience that is exciting, challenging, and inviting. It's also the fact that none of these people care to reach out. They care to be part of their performance. They want their public performance of their values. And then act like everybody is on board with exactly what they are. And although there are a tremendous amount of people, including myself, that thinks it's time to honor the sanctuary cities, stop the manner in which they are doing things in those cities, and deal with the fact because you can't undo the sanctuary city. Deal with it. Go to Congress and say, time for a new law. Go to the states and say, time for an amendment to the Constitution. Whatever the fuck. But if you're not fucking with the sanctuary city itself, then maybe it's better that you stop what the fuck you're doing. Because everything I said is really serious with intelligence agents and et cetera, et cetera. But guess what? You still got to stop. Right? You still got to stop. Because you're chasing a ghost and doing what both parties fucking do. Inventing a fucking reason to fucking give people fear. To agree to submit to authority for no other reason than to exploit them as a resource in whatever the fuck you're doing. Whatever the fuck you're really doing. Among the reasons is the simple fact that human beings can sustain an interest in a particular subject only over a limited period of time. The concentration, the emotional fervor, even the physical energy of a particular experience that is exciting, challenging, and inviting can last just so long. Yeah, it's the novelty effect, right? Occupy Wall Street felt like it was going to be this great thing until you realize the mob had no mind and it was just a giant computer algorithm that responded only to a particular catalyst engine who would say mic check. Not anybody could just say mic check. You had to be one of the guys. I learned this in one day. Anyway. Can last just so long. So this is true of the gamut of human behavior from sex to conflict. After a period of time, it becomes monotonous, repetitive, an emotional treadmill, and worse than anything else, a bore. From the moment the tactician engages in conflict, his enemy is time. Yeah, but Saul doesn't realize that literally everything he is doing is designed to waste time. Because Saul doesn't spend any time teaching saying that any of these people should learn a goddamn thing about how the shit works that they're asking their fucking government to do. It's all perpetually about dismissal of the personal responsibility in your civic duties. Don't figure out how it all works. Just fart in the concert hall. Just fart your ass off. make a statement about dignity and never mind raising your own fucking standards, right? Never mind that. This should be kept in mind when one is considering boycotts. First, any consideration of a boycott should carefully avoid essentials such as meat, milk, bread, or basic vegetables, since even selective buying weakens after a period of time as the opponent cuts his prices below his competitors. With non-essential grapes, bananas, pistachios, like this back in the day, the illusion that boycotts did a thing, that boycotts did anything, right? A boycott would only work if you were somebody who had nothing to complain about. If you're so poor that you're boycotting the very products you want to buy, it's not helping your position at all. The market will just adjust itself. Right? The market is designed to sustain from attack in this manner. But anyway, this is why it's just like, look at what was it? Bud Light, Coors Light, whatever. Oh, go woke, go broke. They're still here. They're still here. They're still doing fine. And nobody's gayer because of it. Okay. With non-essentials, grapes, bananas, and a sacrifice and feel noble. Even so, any skilled organizer knows that he can push this negative over into a positive. He can compel or maneuver the opposition to make the mistakes themselves. The drama of continuous involvement builds up an immunity to any further excitement. The consequences is that the opposition will finally out their own tedium give in. Now, isn't it funny that Saul is talking about things like boycotting your foods? Well, right now the SNAP thing is going on. I didn't know he was going to talk about food boycottings. Right? And so you just have to ask yourself, if the have-nots, if it's a sacrifice for the have-nots to boycott food, then doesn't that mean they have a little and they want more and they're in that middle class category theoretically? Right? It's like saying, like, doing these kinds of boycotts, it's like, I am going to spite the basic needs I expect you to give me. Right? We're complaining about the basic needs. And then, at the same time, as a tactic for getting your basic needs, you're cutting off your basic needs. Or in this case, we're talking about something that's much more about entitlement, or much more about the premise that an establishment can have an exclusivity, an in-group preference, run a private event, and under such privacy clauses of basic human behavior, the building, the employment of the people that are in the building becomes irrelevant, because the building is being rented out to the private person who may or may not also own a big-ass company and talking company business at a party which is on personal, private this is Bohemian Grove, right? This is why they do Bohemian Grove. Right? Because there's no official business happening there. There's all agreements that get turned into ethically on the level official business when the Grove is over. It's very fucking simple. It's the easiest way, and it's done in a way so that way they can ask you the wrong question, and it's very easy for you to lie. They are terrified of independent journalists like me, like Dana, who's coming on tomorrow, like Sean David Morton, who I used to work with. We ask dangerous questions. We undercut the premise by which you're setting up how your lie makes sense. By exposing that you got certain facts wrong, that changes the context of the more essential lie that protects the guilty. That's what people like us do. I just look at much more almost abstract targets. You know, for me, I'm a big believer in the power and the principalities kind of side of it, and understanding invisible forces that are in control, because they seem like they're the most powerful, but I think they're actually some of the most bitch ass, with the exception of the anti-gods. But the anti-gods don't have a whole lot of heavy-duty arsenals outside of their world enders, and they don't want to pull that card early, but they do want to pull that card. Okay. The pressure of time should be ever present in the mind of the tactician as he begins to engage in action. This applies to the physical action such as a mass demonstration as well as to its emotional counterpart. When the Woodlawn organization in Chicago decided to have a massive move-in on City Hall with reference to an issue on education, 5,000 to 8,000 individuals were to fill the lobby of City Hall in Chicago at 10 a.m. for a confrontation with the mayor. At the time the strategy was being developed, the function of time in the use of the tactic was examined and understood, and therefore the tactic was utilized to its fullest potential rather than turning into a debacle, as was the case with the recent Poor People's March, Resurrection City, etc. There was a clear understanding on the part of the leadership that when some thousands of people are assembled downtown, the physical tedium of standing, of being in one place for a period of time, begins to dampen ardor rather soon, and that small groups will begin to disappear, to go shopping, go sightseeing, get refreshments, go to the bathroom, the human condition eventually kicks in. In short, the life of the immediate metropolitan area becomes much more attractive and inviting than simply being in City Hall or in an action that has already spent the excitement of witnessing the opposition's shock. Right. Well, that's because typically it's like you're just sympathetic to a cause. That's all you're really fucking doing. You're doing political pastime stuff. Right? And it's unfortunate that political pastime stuff doesn't actually work. It's just you're being tricked into sympathetic magic, so something you don't actually want comes in and you defend it. Right? So, yeah, you're getting all these people. Thank God they got bored. I'm sure they didn't fully understand it. Or they came to fully understand it and say, like, well, I'm not, it's just like, well, I hope they get it, but it's not that big of a deal, right? It's just like, they're not yelling, I'm starving, or I am going to starve, right? The SNAP thing, people are yelling, I am going to starve. Now, the question is, as SNAP being off continues, do large crowds show up? Was the money being poured in sufficient for $36 a day? $36 a day. I don't know if that makes sense. Is that like your allowance when you get a SNAP card? I don't want to get into a whole SNAP thing. I don't want to go look it up. But $36 spread across 3 meals a day. That's considering like who is taking SNAP, how much time they got in their life to prepare food. I think you're looking at a little bit of a problem because of food preparation time. So you're using that probably to get a lot of cheap shit. If you're stretching $36 out across a day, you're gonna get some cheap shit for that, right? Anyway, no one's gonna go hungry in this nation. The government will fail to feed you in America, but America will never allow you to starve. The government will just fail to do what good people will do. I'm more interested in what good people will do than what the evil government is going to do. Somebody will donate food just because it's the right thing to do. I swear. This is the way America is. You know it. And you might want to ask yourself, are any of these Republicans and Democrats able to tap into the personal wealth that they are worth since they entered office and spend the money themselves? They can go down to all the food distribution centers in their jurisdictions where they come from. They can go there, put the money in as a personal donation, and be like, here, while this horrible Republican shutdown is going on. I'm thinking of Chuck Schumer here. And he just gives like $1 million or something to like New York's fucking food distribution centers. Right? And then all this fucking free food gets the fuck out there, out of Chuck Schumer's back pocket. Because it would be the right thing to do. He could sell his house, downsize, give a whole lot. He could start being as communist as the commies he needs the votes of now. He needs their votes. He fucking needs their votes. He's running out of fucking neo-libs. He's getting all democratic socialists who are card-carrying communists at this point. And many of them are very, very psychotic. And the slaughtered lamb has shown us who these psychotics are. People that will never understand the nuance, will never care about what's complicated, will never be able to look at what some conservative pundit like him is and what it matters, and many other things. You know, it's just like, I understand reasons to dislike Charlie Kirk better than people who hate Charlie Kirk. People that hate Charlie Kirk don't even understand him. I understand him, which no, I don't hate him, but I was definitely against him because he was a mouthpiece of certain ideals. A very likable, personably person, but with the psychotic idea of certain things being black and white, and people have a hard time dealing with such a lockstep like evangelical Christian fucking psyche, and how easily their black and white determinatives work for fascism. And there's been a downplay of the fact that the Germans were kind of a pseudo-secular Christian with the Germanic heritage aspect being a Christianization of German folklore as part of their hijacking of the folkish movement, right? And so this is downplayed because the Nazi Party was bringing in that Christian vote and Christian approval, while doing their own very atheist kind of thing, while also having their dark cultist scientists at the same time. Anyway. Getting ready to take a break in a minute here. Let me find a good spot to park my thoughts. City Hall in action. Already spent excitement witnessing aftershock. After a while, and by a while, meaning up to 3 hours, the 8,000 would have dwindled to 800, or less, and the impact of mass numbers would have been seriously diluted and weakened. Furthermore, the effect on the opposition would have been that the mayor, seeing a mass action of 8,000 shrink to 800, would assume that if he only sits it out for another 2 or 3 hours, the 800 will shrink to 80. And if he sits it out for a day, there will be nothing left. That would have gained us nothing. Right, but it's finding what keeps the excitement of 8,000 people and then growing. Right? Perhaps you just need to hold 8,000 because of whatever percentage of the body politic of your city that is. Maybe because it determines just enough city blocks for a handful of city council members to be like, Mayor, you better at least take them seriously, right? Okay, so we will jump back in with this in mind over here when we get back from whatever I am going to pick. Okay, this band's called Judiciary. This is called Social Crusade. I'm just jumping in this shit blind as usual. Hope it's good. we go. Went to the wrong screen a moment. There we are. Hey, what's good? Alright, we're back. Oh my god, my mic has been off, hasn't it? Oh my gosh. I've just been sitting here on mute, right? Check, yeah, yeah, nothing was going through. Nothing was going through. Alright, let's go back to the top here. We're doing this over. I might cut this out or something. The quiet part. I can say the quiet part out loud, don't you know? There is a way to keep the action going and to prevent it from being a drag, but this means constantly cutting new issues as the action continues, so that by the time the enthusiasm and the emotions for one issue have started to de-escalate, a new issue has come into the scene, with a consequential revival. With a constant introduction of new issues, it will go on and on. This is the case with many prolonged fights. In the end, the negotiations don't even involve the issues around which the conflict originally began. It brings to mind the old anecdote of the 100 Years' War in Europe. When the parties finally got together for peace negotiations, nobody could remember what the war was all about or how it had begun. Furthermore, whatever the original issue, they were now irrelevant to the peace negotiations. And so, let me see, what the heck was the point I was going on about here? Because I didn't quite get to the end of the passage, and I had stopped to explain what I would have done. Oh, yes. When he's talking about this organizing, my point that I was making is that you get the guys to commit to a long period of time in case day one doesn't get you what you want. You know that you have a workforce, an army that is committed to showing up ahead of time, saying, listen, I got a backup plan if they do not yield today. All right? And look, we're going to do this. As long as we commit to it every day, we don't have to be here that long every single day. Our persistence, our ability, and you don't just have one slogan that you just drill into someone's fucking head. That's just getting real fucking fascist, grooming someone to your fucking rhetoric, right? You want to be able to every single day be capable, right? Perhaps your rhetoric should be a conversation starter that then goes off into that opens up a full-blown piece of your mind, right? This is why the No Kings event was kind of a joke, because you just walk up to the lady and it's just like, all right, you're here because Donald Trump's done all the bad illegal things. Give us all those things he did that were done illegally, and she can't think of anything that he's done that's illegal. She just thought that doing something that looks exactly like the Nuremberg codes was illegal to do in this country. Because all we are doing is the American version of the Nuremberg codes, and the only people we're doing it to is anybody except for a Jew. I don't think we're going to be deporting anybody to Israel. Have we? In fact, you know what? I'm actually going to stop right now. I actually need to know this. I was thinking about this earlier anyway, so I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask ChatGPT. Okay. Has the White House... Has ICE in 2025 deported any Israeli nationals? I spell Israeli correctly? Hold on a minute. There we go. Has ICE in 2025 deported any Israeli nationals? Okay, let's see how this question goes. This is gonna be a scary answer. I could not find publicly available credible evidence showing the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has deported nationals of Israel in 2025. Oh, what a surprise. Here's a breakdown of what the research revealed. ICE's archive records show that in 2011, an Israeli national wanted for fraud was deported by ICE. So that could be that's 2011 don't matter. ICE has reportedly many removals of criminal illegal aliens in 2025, but the records typically do not specify Israeli nationals. There is also a recent there is also hold on a minute. Okay. There is also a recent highlight that after 2023, Israeli citizens became part of the U.S. visa waiver program, meaning entry and travel rules changed for Israeli nationals. The visa waiver program. Well, in short, you don't really, like, Israeli nationals are not deportable persons. That's all that means. It means that you're not going to get a Mossad agent out of here, or a Mossad asset out of here, right? I found no authoritative announcement, press release, or ICE public record from 2025 saying we deported an Israeli national or naming such a case. The media and ICE communications I found focus on other countries, criminal removals, third country removals, and don't mention Israel as a country of removal. ICE and the broader Department of Homeland Security data, okay. Possible reasons for lack of data. Nationals benefit visa waiver. ICE might anonymize removal data, country ways, Texas. ICE anonymize or aggregate removal data by country in ways that make detecting a single case of an Israeli national difficult via public search. Okay, so ICE could basically bury an Israeli national deportation, which, like, that's actually a little disturbing, because if they could do that with an Israeli who gets special treatment, they could do that with other people. This is why the concentration camps thing is a little bit scary, right? Because, stop acting like Donald Trump has any goddamn fucking control. Things are where they are now, and this is happening all under law. Under law that is kind of supposed to be compulsory. If you like, I can dig into ICE's detail. Okay, no. Alright, so anyway, that's fine. I don't care any further. Anyway. Okay. 100 Years War, right, peace. Okay, so, new tactics and old. Speaking of issues, let's look at the issue of pollution. Here again. Now, he's going to talk about pollution. Is he going to talk about global warming or whatever the fuck they were calling it in 71? Here again, we can use the haves against the haves to get what we want. When utilities or heavy industries talk about the people, they mean the banks and other power sectors of their own world. If their banks, say, start pressing them, then they listen and hurt. The target, therefore, should be the banks that serve the steel, auto, and other industries, and the goal, significant lessening of pollution. Alright, so he sees looking at the banks as a way of lessening pollution. Okay, I like where he's thinking there because of the banking cartels, which the problem is that, there's communists that are against the banking cartels, and there are theoretically capitalists that are against the banking cartels. And because the capitalists get such a bad name, we just end up keeping the banking cartel because we know it's not as painful. And there's some level of perceived negotiation with the nation as to how the bank loans money with us. But anyway. Let us begin by making the banks live up to their own public statement. All banks want money and advertise for new savings and checking accounts. They even offer premium prizes to those who will open accounts. Opening a savings account in a bank is more than a routine matter. First, you sit with one of the multiple vice presidents or employees and begin to fill out forms and respond to questions for at least 30 minutes. If 1,000 or more people all moved in, each with $5 or $10 to open up a savings account, the bank's floor functions would be paralyzed. Again, as in the case of the shop-in, the police would be immobilized. Okay, here we go again with his delusions of grandeur. Okay, he's just regurgitating the flood them with the business model, flood them with their own business model, just go in there and gang run on their business, but pay them. You're still doing it to pay them, but you're overwhelming them. It's I get it. Like it's probably implying a whole lot more force. I mean, whatever. Okay. Opening a savings account in a bank is more than a routine matter. First, you sit down with one of the multiple vice presidents. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. The bank's floor functions would be paralyzed. Again, as in the case of the shop-in, the police would be immobilized. There is no illegal occupation. The bank is in a difficult position. It knows what is happening, but still it does not want to antagonize the would-be depositors. Right, but okay, it's only because you're overwhelming that this is what hackers do. They put a data dump into a system to fry it and all that. It's humans hacking human systems. Anyway, the bank's public image would be destroyed if some 1,000 would-be depositors were arrested or forcibly ejected from the premises. Would they? They're just being arrested on, you're being arrested, not because you're sitting in, disorderly conduct or disrupting business, just, you're not allowed to do that. And this is over the matter of pollution, right? You're jumping straight to, you see, this is all jumping to, playing this tongue-in-cheek game, you're trying to bypass, you assume that everybody agrees with you that the bank is some sort of bad guy in on a conspiracy to fuck you over that nobody can do anything about. Nobody fucking agrees with you about that in 1971. And if they did, they would realize that you don't want to fucking resolve that issue this way. Because you don't even begin to understand. See, Saul doesn't understand the beast very well. He's reacting to the symptoms of the beast. He's not reacting to the beast itself. Anyway. The element of ridicule is here again. A continuous chain of action and reaction is formed. Following this, the people can return in a few days and close their accounts, and then return again later to open new accounts. This is what I would call a middle-class guerrilla attack. It could well cause an irrational reaction on the part of the banks, which could then be directed against their large customers, for example, the polluting utilities or whatever, were the obvious stated targets of the middle-class organizations. The target of a secondary attack, such as this, is always outraged. Is always outraged. The bank, thus, is likely to react more emotionally since it, as a body, feels that it is innocent, being punished for another's sins. Okay. We will get to at the same time over here after the next break. And I shouldn't forget again the stupid microphone. I hope that wasn't a very long muted period of time. Anyway. Right. Here. And so far, I say my playlist has been banging. Just bear with me here. I want to see if I can find something that's got the right theme. Alright, we're going to do some Cro-Mags. We gotta know.
I look like someone who cares what God thinks?
Oh, was that? Oh, dude, was that the devil in Time Bandits? I think that clip was from Time Bandits. Oh, I love how they put Time Bandits in at the end of that. That was, who the hell was that? That was, God's hate with divine injustice. Okay. Let's hop back to it. At the same time, this kind of action can also be combined with social refreshments and gathering together with friends downtown, as well as with the general enjoyment of seeing the discomfiture and confusion on the part of the establishment. The middle-class guerrillas would enjoy themselves as they increased the pressure on their enemies. Once a specific tactic is used, it ceases to be outside the experience of the enemy. Before long, he devises countermeasures that void the previous effective tactic. Recently, the head of a corporation showed me the blueprint of a new plant and pointed to a large ground floor area. Boy, have we got an architect who is with it, he chuckled. See that big hall? That's our sit-in room. When the sit-inners come, they... you know what? You say that real fast and it sounds like sin-eaters. The sit-inners are the sin-eaters. Ooh, I'm good. I gotta make sure Gabe hears that turn of phrase. He'll like that one. When the sit-inners come, they'll be shown in, and there will be coffee, TV, and good toilet facilities. They can sit here until hell freezes over. Now you can relegate sit-ins to the Smithsonian Museum. Once, though, and in rare circumstances, even now, sit-downs were really revolutionary. A vivid illustration was the almost spontaneous sit-down strike of the United Automobile Workers Union in their 37 organizing drive at General Motors. The seizure of private property caused an uproar in the nation. With rare exceptions, every labor leader ran for cover. This was too revolutionary for them. The sit-down strikers began to worry about the illegality of their action and why and wherefore, and it was then that the chief of all CIO organizers, Lewis, gave them their rationale. He thundered, "The right to man's job transcends the right of private property. The CIO stands squarely behind these sit-downs." If I'm thinking of Lewis, who we mentioned earlier, who I believe was the guy who went on to become a congressman, right? This was Congressman like Lewis was, he was this whore that rode into Congress on the blood of Martin Luther King, right? This was the Martin Luther King settlement figure, right? The next best thing to King himself. They couldn't have a guy like King belly aching in Black Soul in a 1960s Congress. Or, dear God, lecturing all the whiteys from the White House. Alright. The sit-down strikers at GM cheered. Granted, also MLK was already certain things, right? You don't, look, at the end of the day, the one thing to know for certain with all of these guys is that You do not get national positive or negative attention in national media and such. You do not get that until your friends in the background have made agreements with their friends in the background. This is what happened to Charlie Kirk. This is what happened to MLK. This is what happened to Malcolm X. You get it? They weren't in power yet, but they were nationally recognized figures politically, right? And if in politics, if they make you, they will definitely destroy you because you're too powerful. And you have the naivete of believing that you're under certain protections, that the world works a certain way, that you can trust all sorts of certain people. You're a made man in the mob. That's all you are, a made man in the mob. And that mob happens to be really into the occult and knows how to perform rituals. Shocking, I know. But hey, you wanted to be like the Lamb of God. Well, you're fully like him now. The sit-down strikers at GM cheered. Now they knew why they had done what they did and why they would stay to the end. The lesson here is that a major job of the organizer is to instantly develop the rationale for actions which have taken place by accident or impulsive anger. Lacking the rationale, the action becomes inexplicable to its participants and rapidly disintegrates into defeat. Possessing a rationale gives action a meaning and purpose. All right, the genesis of tactic proxy. Let me see how much there is to read in this section. Let's see. All right. Yeah, so, all right, so it goes on. It's a pretty long thing in and of itself. Yeah, all right, all right. So let's keep going, because we're still here. This is the next step. Wait, what's that? Oh, hair. Oh, wait, I'm way off mark now. Where was I? 177? I think it was 177. Yes. Okay. Genesis of tactic. Oh, proxy. I didn't see the R there. Not poxy. Like epoxy? The greatest barrier to communication between myself and would-be organizers arises when I try to get across the concept that tactics are not the product of careful cold reason, that they do not follow a table of operations or plan of attack. Unpredictable reactions to your own actions. Necessity and improvisation dictate the direction and nature of tactics. Then, analytical logic is required to appraise where you are. What you can do next, the risk and hopes that you can look forward to. It is this analysis that protects you from being a blind prisoner of the tactic and the accidents that accompany it. But I cannot overemphasize that the tactic itself comes out of the free flow of action and reaction, and requires on the part of the organizer an easy acceptance of apparent disorganization. Well, right, you have to, the only thing you're gonna, yeah, I mean, like, it's like going MMA. It's just like you're not in control of which way the punch and the kick comes from in what order. That's entirely within the mind of the other competitor. And if you're lucky, he's not good and he telegraphs his moves. I worry that I telegraph too much. Right? Because if because it can be a lot of fun to be dramatic in throwing a punch. You know, I'm playing around on the punching bag, and I'm doing full. You know, everybody loves to feel the strength of a nice, powerful haymaker. I think a lot of people love just running around, just jabbing, boom, boom, just tapping, just practicing your ability to pop a guy in the jaw, just like, you know, scorpion sting, right? You know, your jab's got to be like your scorpion sting. Maybe your teep kick's got to be a scorpion sting too, but definitely your fucking jab. But anyway, yeah, because when you're doing your thing, like, you know, you're not 100% sure how your own guys who've already practiced and made agreements is going to go, because nobody's in the fucking army over here. And then on the other side of it, you got no idea what those other guys are going to do at all after you've expelled all of their usual abilities to avoid the issue that you're actually doing all this about. The organizer goes with the action. His approach must be free, open-ended, curious, sensitive to any opportunities, any handles to grab onto, even though they involve other issues than those he may have in mind at that particular time. The organizer should never feel lost because he has no plot, no timetable, or definite point of reference. Like, I would definitely say you need that Odinic consciousness. The realm that Odin has mastered through his death is Niflheim, which is a place that poisons you to death, right? And it is a place that it drives you mad while it's poisoning you, and it brings you face to face with your dreams and nightmares, right? All sorts of manner of thing from the imagination lurks in the mist. This is a lot different than the unconscious. The unconscious is just kind of like, it's like things that are very real that are lost in the dark. Where the dream realm, this intuitive realm, if you will, is unsubstantiated potential, raw, raw substance of the magus, the raw substance by which the magus wields creation. And so that's the mind of the general, who is tapping into the zeitgeist of all of his friends and all of his enemies, and has a precognitive understanding of who requires what kind of attention and how to continue to follow, focus, and keep track of the objective in the storm. Okay, so a great pragmatist, Abraham Lincoln, told his secretary in the month of the war began, "My policy is to have no policy." 3 years later, in a letter to a Kentucky friend, he confessed plainly, "I have been controlled by events." The major problem in trying to communicate the idea is that it is outside the experience of practically everyone who has been exposed to our alleged education system. Ha! Okay, he's saying this in 1971. This is a good 10 years before they would institute... No. They created it during the Carter administration, but I think it was 1980 that it started. And so, like, I was born the first year of the rollout of the Department of Education. Because I'm part of that. When you think about it, with the exception of the Generation X cuspers, it's millennials forward that have been under the Department of Education. And we've been looking at the wholeness of millennial education, and it's complete, like what it's going to be as we've seen it emergent in 2016. And the very different place they're at now and see themselves, and whatever attitudes they got going on. And it's not healthy that we're not talking to each other, because and it's not healthy that we're allowing each side to have... I don't mean extremist in the sense of, oh my God, there's a guy who has a questionable idea of history about Hitler that makes him seem like he didn't hurt as many people or hurt people or whatever fucking weird shit, you know? I don't care. And Lindsey Graham can go fuck himself. No Jews are getting harmed on my watch. This I swear. Too bad my watch is limited, but that's your loss. Nobody fucking invited me to the party. So yeah, the Department of Education with the millennials has just... It was meant to turn out everybody, like, look, okay, like, there's no conspiracy that's making them into statists, right? That's just, that kind of goes part and parcel, right? It's the madness that we've occulted, learning how to pay your own taxes in school, like, all these effing things, right? So my point is, here he's making all these complaints in the time that the psyche would be brewing up the way it would accept a federally run central education system. So let's see what he's saying here. Because we already had federal stuff like putting into all the stuff that built who would be personnelling all of the corporations and all of the government agencies when it comes to scientists, engineers, agricultural technicians, the whole 9 yards. And so this becomes all of your real serious type of G-men that become like all the stuff of legends, you know, throughout the 1970s and 80s, and the immense thing that the American Empire was. But anyway. The products of this system have been trained to emphasize order, logic, rational thought, direction, and purpose. We call it mental discipline, and it results in a structured, static, closed, rigid mental makeup. Yeah, this I agree. It's the beating over the head of the left brain, right? It's suppressing right brain properties. Granted, we went wildly in the other direction by the end of the Department of Education. Even a phrase such as being open-minded becomes just a verbalism. Happenings that cannot be understood at the time or don't fit into the accumulated educational pattern are considered strange, suspect, and to be avoided. For anyone to understand what anyone else is doing, he has got to understand it in terms of logic, rational decision, and deliberate conscious action. Therefore, when you try to communicate the whys and the wherefores of your actions, you are compelled to fabricate these logical, rational, structured reasons to rationalizations. This is not how it is in real life. All right, it's just a little bit after 9:30. I'm going to bring us to a final break. And so, let me see here. There's a lot of fucking songs on here. I want to find something that sounds thematically good. Wait a minute. No. Come on. A lot of good stuff, though. Okay. Alright. This is going to be a short one, so it's definitely going to be a follow-up. This is Delusion of Knowledge by All Due Respect.
Just
fuck you with all due respect.
From the blood on my hands to the blue on your shirt, come in a sideways bit and put you in the dirt. When your stupid bitch does innocent pursue, let them break your rule, define what you do. Tell us how to live our life, control what we say. Take all your shit and spit them in your face. 187 on a PID. About the change, I'm up to no good. The gun, no face, no case. I know you wanna get me. I'm in death, go ahead, set me free. Corrupt to the core. I ain't scared, so what the fuck you waiting for? Live your stupid bitch, that's innocent for show. Live to break your rules, define what you know. Tell us how to live your life, control what we say. Take all your shit and spit them in your face.
SAPD's most wanted! Public enemy number one! Beat your ass, then steal your bitch! Settle down, bitch!
Okay. Alright. There's so much good shit I'm picking. Like, I can't, like... I picked the right playlists. I fucking get the right title. Like, I've maybe been disappointed by maybe, like, one song, maybe, that I played. Maybe? Or maybe I just didn't like the way it started, but... It had like one good part in it or something. I don't know. There was one that didn't land so well that I sort of remember. But just about everything on these playlists I've been picking has been absolute fire. All right. So, since the nature of the development of tactics cannot be described as a general proposition, I shall attempt instead to present a case study of the development of the proxy tactic, one that promises to be a major tactic for some years to come. I shall try to take the reader into my experience with the hope that afterwards he will reflect candidly upon the hows and whys of his own tactical experience. We know that we are predominantly a middle-class society living in a corporate economy, an economy that tends to form conglomerates so that in order to know where the power lies, you have to find out who owns whom. Right, now, you see, the issue is that, like, why does the middle class need to help the poor tear down the upper class when the middle class could consider some sort of a deal, right? Some sort of a deal that you would maybe need to talk to government because you're going to do something publicly, but you can just go talk as a community and say, hey, listen, you want to, like, do a thing? I don't really want to talk to the city council about this when I think we could just do a thing. And then you have some sort of idea that helps. and you figure it out, you talk about it, you pool some resources together, and then you make a thing happen. And you don't have to fucking attack the guys that are richer than you. Right? Hey, listen. I can tear down I could tear down almost anything anybody says. I really could. You can call it trollish, but I would tear it down accurately. Because I actually ask a fucking pressing question of concern that I'm yet to hear an answer for, that's a legitimate fucking question and needs to not be suppressed, because you know that question, once heard, people would agreeably wish that, right? Being on the quest terrifies these people. This is the whole thing in the middle of the Kingdom short film from Arlov, the guy from In Shadow. He just recently did a really amazing interview with, quite frankly. I'm gonna ask him again to come on the show. I've tried a couple of times now, and he's never gotten back to me. But I just think he's probably just getting buried, or Facebook is being fishy. Hold on. But at any rate, it doesn't matter. Point is when the main character peeks and he sees his sword in the stone. And everybody freaks out and and orders everyone to attack him, and they go into the witch hunt. They try to keep him held down, but everything's gone into the illusionary, right? And the approach to that sword, that's the quest. They're afraid of everybody starting that quest, because to get the answer is typically to learn the full meaning of a new word. A new name tells a new story. Things of this nature. You all of a sudden, you've put the things together, and you have the words to cast the most powerful of truths that your witness can project. And this is the word of the Magus. For some years past, it's been like trying to find the P in the shell game. But now there are strobe lights flashing for further confusion. The one thing certain is that masses of middle-class Americans are ready to move towards major confrontations with corporate America. College students have argued that their administration should give student committees the proxies in their stock portfolios for use in the struggle for peace and against pollution, inflation, racially discriminatory policies, and other evils. Right. And you act like that because you are trying to figure out how you carve a world out that has all those things. Where the air and all the nature is clean, and your health is in a clean place. And you don't have to labor harder next year for all the things you bought last year, right? Anyway, I could go and explain each one of these, but you get the point. You're going through all these breakdowns, right? And this is what we tried. This was tried out in the summer of Floyd. You had the Chaz Chop situation. And they tried. They tried. I'm glad they tried. That was a powerful experience for them. Right? At the end of the day, they had to admit they failed by their own devices because the hypocrisy stares itself in the face with the armed guard to enforce your unarmed society, your safe unarmed society, by having one guy that'll shoot you if you have a gun, and you're just going to agree with him if you're in trouble because he has the gun. And it was beautiful. It was a beautiful demonstration of totalitarianism. The Nuremberg Codes was not day-to-day life in Nazi Germany. Day-to-day life in Nazi Germany was a way different kind of thing that was a magnificent experience for the German national. Whether they liked what was happening to the Jewish ghettos or not. Right? This wasn't just happening all over the place. It was only happening in the ghettos. The sanctuary cities are being turned into ghettos for the same purposes. They've tricked you into going into Hispanic ghettos. And it's still harder to deport you, but when you do, it's a fucking spectacle. And you're being used as a spectacle to keep your exploited labor instead of doing the right thing if we're going to keep you here and give you some sort of long-form, fluid, like visa thing so you can work here all on the books just like that without becoming a citizen, because you seem to not want to be citizens either. It feels like when we offer you a place in line and say, we're not going to hold your trespass against you. We're going to forgive your trespass. What is that in the Bible? To let them back in on file. To say, like, listen, it's wrong to deport you. You didn't do anything wrong other than you wanted to get it. You wanted to work. Our people here are exploiting you. Look, here's... we changed the law, right? And, we're always going to have really strict borders and shit. And we're going to have a lot of regular deportations that are like they were back in the day, where it was like a dozen or something, right? But you guys, you won the fucking lottery because we had to arrest a whole lot of fucking people that let you in. We punished them for letting you in. It's not your fault. You guys are fucking angels. Welcome to America. I hope you want to be citizens, but for now, we're not going to harass you. Oh yeah, your wages have gone up, and your wages will get better when you're a citizen, too. They'll probably do something like that. It'll still be like a second tier. Become a citizen, and we'll pay you at full rate. you get, like, the alien rate, and every alien gets this, right? And there's many aliens that want to be American citizens, and then the other aliens that don't have to be American citizens will be inspired by the ones that do. I think that fucking works. That fucking works like a charm to me. There, problem fucking solved. I've saved nationalism. Huzzah! Anyway. Citizens from Baltimore to Los Angeles are organizing proxy groups to pool their votes for actions on the social and political policies of their corporations, feeling the national proxy organization may give them, for the first time, the power to do something. They are now waking to a growing interest in the relationship of their corporate holdings to the Pentagon. This pragmatic means toward political action has loosed new forces. Recently, I talked to 3 students at Stanford's School of Business Administration, about the ways and means of proxy use. I asked them what their major goal was, and they responded, getting out of Vietnam. They shook their heads when I asked whether they had been active on this issue. Why not? I inquired. Their answer was that they didn't believe in the effectiveness of demonstrations. They didn't believe in the effectiveness of demonstrations in the streets and recoiled from such actions as carrying Viet Cong flags, draft card burning, or draft evasion. But they did believe in the use of proxies. Enter 3 new circuits. You can depend upon the establishment of to radicalize them further. Like any new political program, the proxy tactic was not the result of reason and logic. It was part accident, part necessity, part response to reaction, and part imagination. And each part affected the other. Of course, imagination is also tactical sensitivity. When the accident happens, the imaginative organizer recognizes it and grabs it before it slips by. The various accounts of the history of the development of the proxy tactic shows a line of reason, purpose, and order that were never there. The mythology of history is usually so pleasant for the ego of the subject that he accepts it in a modest silence, an affirmation of the validity of the mythology. After a while, he begins to believe it. Okay, I like the point he's making there, right? As a conspiracy theorist, one could say I've had a delusion or two which has misguided my political judgments. Forget just who I think I'm endorsing. For me, life is much more about what is being endorsed, right? What are these issues and these matters, I never thought about the Affordable Care Act when it was originally written, and then after they passed it, it was explained to me what it actually was doing. And what I originally thought was going to be the idea of something like a Social Security card and a little percentage that's taken out of your paycheck that goes into a whole trust that gives you basic checkups and basic emergency stabilization or something, right? But instead it was a expensive insurance mandate. Holy fucking shitballs. And this is my point. It's like, was that a Saul Alinsky tactic to fuck the middle class hard? You want to bitch about the economy? Bitch about your own fucking personal work ethics. You can't tell me that everybody operates at the same level of work ethic. That is bullshit. I have a hard time sometimes, like there are people that naturally work harder than me. There's people that naturally work slower than me. And you know what? It's fine. I have a personal higher expectation of myself that's just in my subconscious hardwiring. It may not break my back as much as the guy who's a workaholic, because I'm not a workaholic, but motherfucker, when I'm at that work, I am fucking busting my ass and milking the value out of every minute. It's kind of the opposite of what other people do, where they stretch it all out, make it look like one thing took that long to do. And my Aries ass doesn't want to fucking operate that slow. I had to learn to slow down at a lot of different jobs, which I almost forgot. I should have. It's fine. I'm going to call him tomorrow. I got phone calls to make. I got people to finagle time out of. Okay. The various accounts of the history of the development of the proxy tactic. Oh, I'm sorry, and so he believes it. I'm down here. The further danger of mythology is that it carries the picture of genius at work, with the false implication of purposeful logic and planned actions. This makes it more difficult to free oneself from the structured approach. For this, if no other reason, mythology should be understood for what it is. Right. I see what he's saying. Well, you see, mythology is the right brain side of looking at the situation. Me, as the conspiracy theorist, there's looking at the global espionage political intrigue of the Charlie Kirk martyrdom, and then there is the oracle of mythology of his Christing in real time. This is why they had to make an explanation for why his neck was not broken while sticking to a 30-odd 6 story, right? Because if his neck had been broken, then he would not have been a proper Jewish sacrifice. You see, he was slaughtered in the Old Testament fashion, not in the Roman execution fashion, right? His neck was slit as an unblemished lamb. But actually he would be blemished, because let's face it, if he's a Jew humper, he's circumcised. So he does have a blemish. That's also the problem, right? So unless he is secretly uncircumcised, he is still a blemished sacrifice. That is going to factor in, especially to how it affects those who were the orchestrators and other players in it. All right. That's good for tonight. When we get back next time, we'll see what's up. See how my day goes. Maybe I'll want to go live later on in the day after the show with Dana, because we're getting real close. 80 to 90. We got 29 pages left. 29 pages. We went through 11 pages today. I want to say 2 more sessions. I think we got 2 more sessions left. All right, guys. This was a kick-ass night. I'll catch you later.